To all the beautiful queens out there, happy Women's Month. Whatever you want, whatever you need, anything you want done, baby, I'll do it naturally, 'cause I'm every woman, it's all in me. It's all in me. I believe that I was meant for greatness, that I will stand and fight for all my dreams. I never thought this journey would be painless, but I found out life is harder than it seems. Kwazi ma kodwa ixesha liyaphilisa. I'm gonna fight back, I'm gonna rise up, not gonna give up, I'm gonna stand up. Yeah, take back my power, inside my veins power, inside my heart power, inside my veins power. Gamala, Gamala, oh, Gamala, Gaphakathi kuwe. This girl is on fire. This girl is on fire. She's walking on fire. This girl is on fire. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. Woo, girl, need to kick up your shoes. Time to take a breather. Time to focus on you. All the late nights, long nights that you've been through. I got a bottle of tequila I've been saving for you. Boss up and change your life. You can have it all, no sacrifice. I know we did you wrong, we can make it right. We're gonna let it all hang out tonight. 'Cause you don't love you anymore. So walk your fine ass out the door. And do your hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? 3, 4. What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Hey, baby, when you get home. Listen, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Who you calling the bitch? U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let him know. U-N-I-T-Y, that's a unit. Instinct leads me to another flow. Every time I hear a brother call a girl a bitch or a hoe, trying to make a sister feel low, you know all of that got to go. Now everybody knows there's exceptions to this rule. Now don't be getting mad when we playing what's cool, but don't you be calling me out my name. I bring back to those who disrespect me like a dame. That's why I'm talking. One day I was walking down the block, I had my cut-off shorts on right, 'cause it was crazy hot. I walked past these dudes when they passed me. One of them felt my booty, he was nasty. I turned around red, somebody was catching the wrath. Then the little one said, yeah, me, bitch, and left. Since he was with these boys who tried to break fly, I punched him dead in his eyes. Who you calling a bitch?
All my ladies, listen up. If that boy ain't giving up, make your lips and swing your hips and all you gotta say.
My name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go. You need to let it go. You need to let it go. Nah to the I to the no, no, no. I ain't bragging, 'cause I'm the one. Just ask me, who shall be done. Don't bother to compare. I got it. I'm every woman. run this mother. Hey, girls, we run this mother. Hey, girls, we run this mother. Hey, girls, we run this mother. Who are we? What we run the world. Who run this mother? Who are we? What we run the world. Who run this mother? Who are we? What we run the world. Who run this mother? Who are we? What we run the world. Who run the world? Girls.
Evening, fellow UCT alumni and friends of the University of Cape Town. My name is Mamokgethi, and on behalf of the University of Cape Town, the Development and Alumni Department, we extend a very warm welcome to you on this rather chilly Cape Town evening. It's amazing to see so many alumni, members of chapters and affinity groups join us this evening. At the Development and Alumni Department, we host a number of these networking events on the continent and abroad. But ladies and gentlemen, tonight's event is a very, very special alumni event. It's special because we have the rare opportunity to be part of a conversation between UCT's most senior executive leadership. For the very first time, I think in UCT's history, your UCT, your alma mater, is predominantly women-led. And so as National Women's Month draws to a close, we really want to share our excitement about this and our pride, our enormous pride about this. Later on, you'll have the opportunity to pose questions to our esteemed, incredible, inspirational panel via the live chat feature. And so now, please allow me to introduce this evening's conversation moderator, Dr. Mamphela Ramphele. Doctor, it's a privilege to welcome you this evening. I now hand over to you to introduce yourself and the fellow panelists. Thank you.
I'm Mamphela Ramphele, a proud alumnus of this great institution, the University of Cape Town. I would like us to start the celebrations with a moment of silence for one of the most beautiful young women that we lost exactly a year ago from gender-based violence. Just bow our heads for a minute. Thank you. Today is a day of celebration. It's celebration of our university, which is all women-led, from the top, the Deputy-Vice Chancellors, and enormous diversity at the level of deans and executive directors. But importantly, even our student body is more than 50% women at both the undergrad and the postgrad level. This is remarkable in a higher education system where only 4 universities are led by women. But it is also remarkable because our university started off as a white male college. So we've been on a very long journey, and transformation is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And so we are grateful to all our benefactors and all of the women who are leading so boldly. We also are in an era of COVID. COVID has taught us a few very hard lessons. It's held up a mirror to show us our strengths and our weaknesses. Our strengths, it turns out, is the fact that we are women-led. Now this, for many who have grown up in male patriarchal-led institutions and societies, might sound strange. But if you think this is a wish a study has been done by the University of Liverpool and the University of Reading, which has actually looked at 19 countries out of the 194 countries in the world recognized by the UN, who are led, these countries that are led by women. They've done much better on every count than their male counterparts. And the differentiators are that the women leaders were very quick to come out hard and early to protect life and to make sure that they roll out support safety nets so that the lockdowns didn't have as much hardship on their citizens. This is a very important lesson for us, to know that what matters in leadership is empathy, is willingness to listen, to communicate, which they did, with empathy and compassion. So we at UCT are gifted this empathetic feminine touch in our leadership. But we are also a society, as Russell Ali reminded us the other day, that has pre-existing conditions. Now we know from COVID, those people who were infected and had pre-existing conditions are more vulnerable. And we as a society are vulnerable because we still have poverty, inequality, unemployment, and racism and sexism very virulently gripping the lives of people. We therefore are entering this evening of celebration very conscious of the fact that there is still work to be done. And so the three panelists that we have today are the people who are going to lead and are leading our institution to the promised land. The Vice-Chancellor, Mamokgethi Phakeng, you couldn't find a more energetic, creative person. Supported very ably by Babalwa Ngonyama as the Chair of Council, because governance is important. And of course, at the end of the day, institutions are entities that survive and thrive from symbolic and ceremonial leadership. And this is where precious Moloi-Motsepe is coming in as our Chancellor. I'm really proud of these three powerful women. We're going to have each one of them, starting with the Vice-Chancellor, making a statement, and then we would like to have as much time as possible after they've completed their statements to take questions. Some of you have already sent questions in, so we can have an interactive process. Mamokgethi Phakeng, I hand over to you.
I mean, I think we at UCT, with all the challenges that we have of transforming the institution, we have a strong cohort of people in the leadership. Not only are they diverse, is it a diverse group of a leadership team, but it's people who understand the importance of the transformation agenda. It is important that when you are on a transformation journey, you don't only get people who themselves are beneficiaries of the transformation agenda, but it's also important that you get people who understand the importance of the agenda, and that they have the commitment and the willingness to lead the transformation. So given where we are at the moment, with the majority of the deans being Black and the 50% of the deans being women, and the academic leadership being 100% women, as well as the governance and the ceremonial leadership, I think we are well positioned to take on the future. You are right, Mamphela, when you say there's still a lot of work to do. Definitely a lot of work to do. We as an institution had the Institutional Reconciliation and Transformation Commission that showed us the weaknesses in our system. We had the Mayosi report that showed us the weaknesses in how we do things. And it is as a result of those that we have recommendations and a way forward on how we can take on the transformation agenda beyond just employment equity or access to UCT. Because for transformation to be impactful has to be more than just the critical mass. The critical mass is important, but it's got to be more than that. It's got to go on to equity of participation and equity of success. Because the reason why we see excellence in the world showing up the way it is because it is enabled that way. So to enable excellence to show up in its diversity, we've got to be committed to transformation, starting with equity of participation. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mamokgethi. Can we have Babalwa, please, our Chair of Council?
Thank you, Dr. Mamphela. It is a real honor and a pleasure for me to be invited to talk to our alumni. You know, I have been with the university for quite a while now, since 2016. I have worked with an alumni, especially from a funding point of view. So it's quite interesting now for us to be working in this way in a governance role that I'm currently occupying. I just want to give you comfort and assurance that the Council is very committed to equality. We are committed to inclusivity, diversity, and gender equity, you know, and we will be doing that together with our partners. We respect the fact that in this university, we have the Senate, we have the institutional forums, we have the very strong student body, and also we have our labor representatives, which are very important in our lives. As UCT, we want to lead change. We do hear people talking about reacting and fighting for survival during COVID time. We actually taking a different view. We're not just going to lead change, we are going to shape it as a university. And the council is going to make sure that we hold the Vice-Chancellor, we hold the executive accountable to that. We do have an aspirational dream that makes us come to work every day at UCT. And we want to make sure that that dream during our term, it becomes a reality. We appreciate that we are, as a university, we have been going through a number of challenges. And that aspirational dream and the strategy that we are talking about is actually influenced and taking cue from these areas where the university has made least progress. So we are very excited to be leading the university during these difficult times when there are key shaping forces around us, like the climate change, like a growing inequality. We are facing a huge fourth industrial revolution, which is just upon us. And unfortunately, this time is accompanied by the global pandemic, as well as a serious recession that we are talking about. So we are not ashamed, we are not fearful of all of those issues. We are looking forward to ensuring that we steer to the university to greater levels. Thank you, Mamphela.
Thank you very much. Else Precious, from where you sit as the Chancellor, how do you see the unfolding of of this great institution under these particularly strong women leadership?
Thank you very much, Dr. Mamphela. It is always an honor. It's informative to engage one another on the present that we're living in, the challenges that we're encountering, and the opportunities for facilitating well-being, sustainable economies, flourishing societies into our futures. I think for UCT to have 3 women, including yourself, Dr. Mamphela, who come from previously disadvantaged backgrounds. I grew up in Soweto. I went to a school in Soweto. I was fortunate to have access to higher education in one of the universities, the other university. Yes, and that has enabled me, and I believe yourselves, to actually be, something that we could never dream of when we were students, when we were young, in our young days. We could never have imagined being part of UCT as students ourselves, because of the apartheid system, we're excluded from attending these universities. Now, to think of us actually being part of the leadership of this university was totally something that we could never have dreamt of. So what that tells me is that we, as human beings, we're capable of so much that we should never give up on ourselves, and that our young kids should always aspire for great things in life. I'm very hopeful and I'm very optimistic about the vision of the university which the Vice-Chancellor has set forward. And my role as the Chancellor is to support the vision and the work of the Vice-Chancellor, as well as the Chairman of Council, in ensuring that we achieve the goals that we have set, that the university has set for itself. We all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has arisen, as you have said, in the context of persistent challenges that our country has had. And these challenges are rising and affecting women disproportionately. We know that in South Africa and many parts of the world, women are the ones who are affected by poverty and inequality disproportionately. Women-headed households are more likely to live under the poverty line. We know that out of the 3 million jobs that were lost in the first month of lockdown in South Africa, 3 million of those jobs were held by women. So I'm very excited that UCT, under the leadership of our Vice-Chancellor and the governance provided by our council, has set itself targets to transform access and opportunities to the previously marginalized in our country.
Thank you very much. I want to go back to Mamokgethi and ask her, if you are challenged about this focus on women leadership, what do you believe women leadership is bringing as a special gift to UCT? And how is your leadership helping both men and women to develop and embrace the values of gender equality and Ubuntu?
Thank you very much. I think once you start by saying when people challenge me about women leadership, my response always is that the rise of women doesn't necessarily mean or doesn't necessitate the fall of men. What we are dealing with is getting the woman voice in. It's not getting the men's voice out. But it's also that what we're dealing with is doing away with the masculinity of power, what I call the power of masculinity, which hasn't served us well. All right, so even when we get men on board, we will always challenge the masculinity of power. But the question that you're asking is, so what do women bring on board? And I want to start with the status of the world right now. I mean, the world that we're living in right now, there's so much uncertainty, there's so much crisis, there's so much rapid change. And research shows that women handle crisis situations much better. And perhaps that's just what women do in their daily lives. And so when they come to leadership, that ability to handle crisis situations well comes through very well and serves institutions. Women handle crisis situations with compassion, with patience, and that's needed when things are bad and we don't know what the next step should be. And that value, I think that's one of the things that women bring to the table. I was listening to the podcast on Freakonomics talking about the glass cliff research that they did on when do multinationals get women to lead the institutions. And research shows that most companies, when they're in crisis and they're looking for a leader, they start putting down the traits that they want. They don't say they want a woman, they put particular traits they want. They then look for a leader, and inevitably they end up choosing a woman because women are much better at handling crisis situations. They don't lead with ego, they focus on the institution, they lead with compassion, with patience, they can engage across constituencies. And so that helps in the leadership. And so what we want, what is important in the world and in leadership in general right now is not to make the women leadership necessary only during crisis, but to actually say if women can actually lift institutions and organizations out of crisis, surely they can lead institutions even when there's no crisis. Women are good at multitasking. They're good. They are good at dealing with people from different walks of life, and they are better at problem solving and at communication. We know what happens during crisis. The value of communicating is very important, and the way that women communicate is very different and very suitable, particularly in times of crisis. But the world is like this. We're talking about a new normal that we are constructing, that we don't know what it's going to be 2 years even from now. And I think my hope is that this period cements women leadership, not only as that leadership that's important for crisis time, but that's as leadership that can lift institutions and organizations to a higher level, even when there's no crisis, because of the traits that women bring to the table. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Katie. I just want to go to Babalwa about a question which one of the members of the audience has asked, which is also relevant to the introduction that Mamokgethi made about we are not only living in a wounded society because of our history, but the University of Cape Town has had its own traumas. What do women bring to the healing process? What do you think women leaders add to the process of healing and the making sure that we promote greater well-being?
I think it's important, first and foremost, that we really acknowledge that the pain that we have brought in as a university and the hurt that we have caused to other people. So that's the first thing. We have beautiful things that we can talk about our university. We are the pride and joy of our country, such an iconic place. We are doing extremely well, and therefore we do have the capacity to deal with the healing. And what is therefore important for us is not just to deal with healing is that empathy, Dr. Mamphela, and we don't just bring that empathy, our experience individually now as women have been through the challenging circumstances. When you grow up as a woman, you definitely understand what disrespect means. One thing that I have gone through personally is being disrespected by a number of people from my young age, being disrespected even in boardroom and having to fight for my space. So for somebody who's telling me about that story, I fully understand that. I understand the pain of being reminded and your dignity being brought down in many, many ways, and being reminded that you don't matter. You are not important as a person. You are not valuable. And I understand how hurtful that can be. So we then bring that resilience as women, that and the ability, therefore, to navigate the space and that ability to engage, to listen carefully, because the healing process does require people who are open-minded, who can walk the path with you, who can listen carefully with respect in particular, and not somebody who assumes that he or she understands your problems before to get them from you. So I would say that we certainly bring a lot of that. We understand, Mamphela, patriarchy as women. We understand that fully. There is no book that can teach me patriarchy. There is no book that can teach me how a woman is treated in a university setup, is treated in a boardroom or in a work environment. So I just want to give comfort to our stakeholders that we have been there, and those things did not happen to us 100 years ago. They're still very fresh in our memory. But what we also bring, lastly, that I would like to highlight is that we understand our counterparts being male. We understand them very well. We have worked with them. We respect unity. In whatever we do, it's important that we move forward in a very unified manner. We don't create distrust. We don't disrespect others in whatever we do. We understand how important it is that we work as a team together in resolving this problem. And we respect the role of men in solving women problems and in actually resolving and helping in the healing process. So I would like to leave it there for now.
Thank you so much, Babalwa. I want to come to Precious. You are a mother, and there's some interesting coincidence here. All three of these women, including me, are mothers of sons. What is it that you do in your being a mother and a powerful leader to bring up your sons to be the gentlemen that we would like to see our daughters, our nieces, our grandchildren being able to have as partners both in workspace and in life? What is it that you, as a mother of sons now and a powerful woman leader, how do you bring up your sons to become the sons you would have loved to see your grandchildren marry?
Thank you for that question, Dr. Ramphele. If I were to start at the end, I always tell my children that I'm preparing them for the partners that they're going to meet in future. Just this afternoon, my family foundation was hosting a webinar on girls in STEM. We sponsor young girls at high schools and universities throughout South Africa to pursue fields in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And these young girls were showcasing some of the innovations that they have developed. It was truly, truly amazing. Now, as a mother, when I look at these young girls, I want to make sure that their partners or my children can really be the partners that these young girls need. They need partners who can look after children, who can clean, their house, who can take over the roles, the caregiving roles, without actually feeling that these are just roles for women. Fortunately, I've got a partner who also, we met at university, and he understands that I'm an ambitious person. I have a life to lead, and I deserve to have the opportunity to access, any fields, anything that I want to do. So he understands and gives me that space. So the two of us, not just myself, have ensured that our sons understand that the world of tomorrow requires leaders, young men and women who will work together to bring the futures that we want. And I'll give you an example. So that I host fashion weeks in Cape Town and in Johannesburg. And at one of these events, we had decided, I used my platforms wherever I can to promote women empowerment. So at this one event, we were promoting, the theme was, we should all be feminists. And most people were wearing t-shirts written, we should all be feminists. My 3 boys, my husband, were wearing these t-shirts. And I even got Natim Tetwa, our minister, our arts and culture, minister, to wear the t-shirt, we should all be feminists. That's one example. The other example is that when I opened my practice in Morningside, it was a women's health practice. And my son, who was then 10 years old at school, was my best PR manager. I couldn't believe it. Whenever people asked him, what does your mother do? He would say to them, she decided to open a women's practice, not just a general practice, because she believes that women need to be healthy. The reproductive health, he didn't use reproductive health, but the health of women is important to ensure that they can participate in the economy, in politics, and so forth. So my children observed what I do, and they have learned from that. And you know that children learn what they see. So I'd like to urge all men and women out there, act and show your children the world that you want them to live in.
Thank you very, very much. I want to now give you some of the questions that are coming from the audience. And I start with you, Mamokgethi. People are asking, what is the strategic plan for UCT? And how does it go beyond just academic women being promoted? What about women in the support services?
Yes, our vision is centered around 3 pillars of excellence, transformation, and sustainability. And the idea is that whilst we commit ourselves to continue to pursue excellence, we understand that excellence in and of itself is not enough, because excellence is not innocent, it's not benign, it can discriminate, it can marginalize, it can silence. So we need transformation. And when we say we need transformation, I explained earlier the different levels that you can have transformation as equity and access, but you need transformation as equity of participation and equity of success. But it's also transformation in how we have seen ourselves as an institution. Our university has got a history of a huge separation between past staff and academic staff in just how they are regarded. I mean, before we get to any level, just how they are regarded and treated, that professional and admin staff somehow historically have felt that they are lesser than citizens of the university, and that's the first thing that we're trying to deal with. And the first way in which we're trying to deal with is to recognize that our success as a university is not only because of the academics, it's also about the support staff who enable the academic project to succeed. And so when we recognize excellence, I mean, historically in our university, the excellence in our staff has been excellence in research and in teaching and learning. And when it comes to professional and support staff, we only recognize them that they stayed long in the university. We've changed that to say, actually, professional and admin staff do work. We don't just have to recognize their loyalty. We've got to recognize the excellence that they bring to enabling the academic project. So just in the recognition systems, we've started recognizing that. And then we've started also talking about having being comfortable with calling a staff meeting that is just a staff meeting. It's not an academic staff, and then we have past staff separately, as if they don't belong to the university. And these two things, as much as they can look trivial, they contribute to how people are regarded in the university. Just how people are regarded is important. But we're going beyond that. For the first time this year, we have published a call for a campus sustainability project. And this is a VC strategic initiative that focuses on the 3 areas of sustainability: financial, social, and environmental. But key to the proposals that will win in this call, focusing on sustainability, would be those proposals that includes where the people in the project include academic, past, and students. They have to show the diversity of the university, diversity in the work that people do, diversity in race, diversity in gender, and everything. That's what we want. And this is a beginning. We don't want to have a situation where past staff seem like they are just accompanying others. They are an important player in the academic project. In fact, we wouldn't be the university that we are without a past staff. Of course, it's easy to say, treat us exactly like academics, or academics saying, treat us exactly like past staff. Why is it that a past staff member can be at a PC level 13, even when they don't have a PhD? That's not what we're talking about. Those kinds of requirements, whether of promotion or requirements for qualify for particular positions, have to do with whatever jobs are done there. We've got to start in how you are treated in the university, that you are not a subhuman, you are not a secondary citizen, you have the same status. Whether you're secretary or professor in the university, you've got to be regarded in the same way and be given the opportunity to participate in the initiatives, key initiatives of the university, and shape the university's future, just like academics do. Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mamokgethi. I want to come back to you, Babalwa, because the issue of the pay gap between men and women persists. And you are in the corporate world, and there it is scandalous what happens there. And the question we need to be asking ourselves is, how do we, at an institutional, cultural level, create an environment where it doesn't depend on someone's ability to negotiate, which is what people say, no, men are better negotiators for salaries than women. It shouldn't be that, I would have thought. How would you advise us to go about not just having women in leadership positions, whether academic or non-academic, but also getting equitable recognition through salaries and benefits?
I think structures like ourselves, like the council in the private sector, it would be your board of directors. They play a crucial role in closing this pay gap. First and foremost, our policies should be very clear. They should not at all tolerate a pay gap. And there should be very clear oversight on that gap, and be conscious in how you close that gap as an organization, because it does come up most of the time because people are not monitoring it, and it happens, and then you wake up later and you realize that, gee, there is a big pay gap. Another area of focus, I would say, we need to empower women as well on negotiations, and also help each other to understand the value that we are bringing into these institutions, you know, and therefore we should not be ashamed of demanding proper pay, and it doesn't matter even if you even compare yourself, if you are becoming a CEO of an organization or a director in one way or the other. Do go out of your way to compare yourself, and if you realize that there is a gap, you don't just lie down about it. You definitely have to talk about it. So sometimes it's not a lack of negotiation skills. It's also about the knowledge. People don't know much as to how their counterparts are being rewarded. So that knowledge is very important. And that's one of the things that we're doing at UCT, and we want to do even more to empower people. We want to unleash that potential. We want to create those global citizens who will not be afraid to take over and deal with the world's challenges. So if we shape our students and we shape our community in that manner, it will go a long way. But more importantly, we must hold people accountable. And one of the ways that I have seen in one of the boards that I sit on, we actually disincentivize the CEO when the pay gap becomes bigger. You know, so it actually hits in his pocket now. So we found that measurement to be very, very useful. And so I would advise that even other people who are in this call, they consider that as part of the KPIs of our leadership teams. A pay gap in particular should sit there very firm.
Thank you very much. I want to come back to you, Precious, with your beautiful sons and their wonderful T-shirts. How do we strengthen and enable women in leadership to show up as women with their entire femininity intact? And you are a wonderful model of it, given your profession and your business interests. Just how do we continue to inspire women to know that it is a special gift to be a woman, because we are closer to the gods. We create people. We are the only bodies that can actually give birth to life. So how do we reinforce that in young women and men to understand?
You're on mute.
Unmute, Chancellor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Ramphele. I think it is important that we create more platforms, not just in August month. We need to create more platforms where younger women can role model themselves and they can see people that they look up to in various sectors. You know, like I said to you today, I had a group of young women in the STEM fields with an executive director from one of the tech companies, somebody who's also on the Commission for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, an amazing woman who has achieved from a very, very poor background. So mentorship is very, very important. We need to see ourselves in others. And if I may say at this point that you might not know, but I have a book that you wrote many, many years ago when I was a medical student. and looking for role models in the medical field. So here I am now talking with you on the same platform. That's amazing. But secondly, I also want to say that women need to develop and grow themselves, and improve their skills, improve their knowledge in whatever fields that they're pursuing, because you get more confident when you actually have the knowledge, and the lack of confidence shows so easily, and that's why in boardrooms or in positions of leadership, some women might come across as non-confident and therefore not allowed or given the opportunity to lead. It is interesting that there was a study, I heard Mamokgethi talking about studies, one that was done by Hewlett-Packard that showed that women often apply for top leadership jobs when they feel that they meet the criteria that have been set 100%, as opposed to our main friends who, if they meet 60% of the criteria, they're quite happy to, to give the job a go. So, but I think it's sometimes, when we talked about the kinds of leadership that we have, women tend to be more collaborative in their leadership. We always like to check with somebody, just like, researchers will, look at their colleagues for peer review, and women tend to do that. We want to test our ideas against somebody, and I think it is a good thing, particularly now with the challenges that we're seeing in the world, where leaders who are just bold and do things on their own and are not collaborative can mislead us. So what I think we need to do to actually normalize, we need to normalize the type of leadership that we see that women usually exhibit. The collaborativeness that they like to collect ideas. We need to normalize the leadership that shows vulnerability. It is very normal to be vulnerable. So we need to normalize people who show their vulnerability. We've seen, as you mentioned, that the countries where COVID is controlled are women-led, but it's not because that they are only women-led. It's because they have the skill, they are highly qualified, they have the relevant experience to navigate these changes. So it is because of their leadership skills and the confidence they have in their leadership that they're able to navigate the challenges that they face.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask now each one of you your last parting sentence, and it will really be very brief because we are now getting towards the close, and I will make a few comments related to some of the comments that have come from my fellow alumni that I think require a person of my generation to respond to. Mamokgethi, let's start with you. What do you want people to take away from this in 1 minute?
First, I think to take away, I want to talk to the women, but in that way also to the men, to say, the biggest problem that we have right now in leadership, in my view, is the power of masculinity and the power of white privilege. And to the women, I want to say that we need your leadership, which means we need you in your wholeness. So own who you are. We don't want you to be a man. Being professional is not about being like a man. So do not worry about the tags put on you because you are confident, because you are decisive, because you are feminine. Own it. Because it's only when you're comfortable in who you are that you can serve in your wholeness, and we can benefit from your being as a woman. We need more of you. Thanks.
Thank you. Babalwa, your parting words on a continent that is led by old men and in a university that's led by young, energetic women? What's your parting word?
Sure. I would say that we understand and acknowledge the fact that UCT has a contradictory history, a history of excellence. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it has caused some pain and hurt to people. We are very committed to derationalizing and transforming the university, but we can't do that alone. We need you to walk this journey with us. We know that alone we can run fast, but together we can go far. And this is a journey. We are not looking only at a destination here. It's a long-term journey. The last thing that I would like to say, we actually also acknowledge the fact that UCT has African roots. It's an African university with global performance, and we do want to keep that globalism in a very strong way, but at the same time we must foreground it with our African roots. Thank you.
Thank you. Precious, your parting word about how you want to see UCT in 10 years' time. Just 1 minute.
Dr. Mamphela, I think we're going through volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous times. What I want to say is when history is written about this era that we're going through, what is UCT going to be reflected as? And what is our role in ensuring that as we go through this great reset, we actually get to a stage where UCT is inclusive, is a place that's more caring, and that embraces all people, just the rainbow nation that we have. That is what I hope to see in the future.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to leave you with these reflections. There are many alumni, my fellow alumni, who've written about why is UCT the only African university in the top 200, and it's not even at the top, but places like Australia have got more world-class universities. I think this is an indication of just how we are discounting our painful history. Australia was built on the backs of indigenous Australians who are today regarded as a problem, but they were creative people. We are on the continent that is the mother of all continents. We are the cradle, not just of humanity, but of civilization. So we have had, and we have started in places like Spain, world-class universities. But for as long as we as Africans don't get to know and celebrate our history, and particularly I'm talking to those Africans who are from privileged backgrounds, they don't know the history of Africa. If you do, you would not be asking those questions. We are so privileged to be on this beautiful continent. And I can tell you, the University of Cape Town is destined for greatness because it is leading in the right way with the right people. Russell, I hand over to you.
Thank you, thank you. Wow, what a inspirational hour. I really want to, on behalf of the Development and Alumni Department, express my deep appreciation for spending this time with us. I also want to thank our alumni who joined this conversation. At last count, we were over 600 who had signed up. I'm sure they found this very stimulating. And I want those who obviously can see that I'm a different gender that I'm certainly not a token man. I'm actually very, I'm very appreciative of our leadership, and our Vice Chancellor was been a bit sort of modest, because this was not choreographed. I think that, you know, often when it comes to issues of affirmative action and equity, it's very important, given our history as a country, to pay particular attention to that. In this case, in the appointments that took place with our Vice Chancellor, Chancellor, Council, it was an open process, and this is the leadership that emerged. And so I think it's very important for me to stress that it's not as if we went out with a specific agenda to find women. We went there with an agenda to find the best and to find excellent leadership. And this is the leadership that emerged. And so I'm proud to be part of the team, part of the leadership of the university. And I think we're in very, very good hands. I want to thank you as well, Dr. Ramphele. You were one of the trailblazers, not only the first woman Vice Chancellor at the University of Cape Town, but also the first Vice Chancellor of color at a historically white university. And I think your role needs to be celebrated and to be acknowledged. I want to also, you know, often these events, the Development Alumni Department, we rely on the goodwill and generosity of people and of our alumni who give money to the university, which is so important for us to be an excellent university, to provide opportunities for students from disadvantaged backgrounds to come and study, to give opportunities for those who for whom this would otherwise be an impossible dream. So I really want to thank our alumni, and I want to encourage them to continue to support the university. We've been speaking about the COVID-19, the pandemic, and how it has upended us as a world, as a society, and certainly the university as well. We have started an emergency fund to assist our students, to assist us to confront this challenge. And so I want to encourage our alumni to support our COVID fund. And then I also want to thank one of our sponsors who helped with this event, who gave us some support to put this event together, Standard Bank. So I want to acknowledge them and thank them, and also all our donors and funders. And I'm going to ask those of you who were still on the call to stay on, because I'm going to ask the technical team, and I know I'm catching them a little bit by surprise, because before we started this event, though it was meant to start at 6, before we started, we actually had a musical tribute, and that showcased some of the talent from our School of Music, and it so happened to be women musicians as well, vocalists and musicians. And it's a wonderful musical tribute, and so I want to encourage people to stay on and to listen to it. It's only 7 minutes, and wish you well, keep safe, and thank you very much, everybody.
To all the beautiful queens out there, happy Women's Month. Whatever you want, whatever you need, anything you want done, baby, I'll do it naturally, 'cause I'm every woman, it's all in me. calling the bitch?
UNITY.
You gotta let them know.
UNITY, that's a unity.
Instinct leads me to another flow. Every time I hear a brother call a girl a bitch or a hoe, trying to make a sister feel low, you know all of that got to go. Now everybody knows there's exceptions to this rule. Now don't be getting mad when we playing what's cool, but don't you be calling me out my name. I bring back to those who disrespect me like a dame. That's why I'm talking. One day I was walking down the block, I had my cut-off shorts on right, cause it was crazy hot. I walked past these dudes when they passed me. One of them felt my food and he was nasty. I turned around, ran, somebody was catching the wrath. Then the little one said, yeah, me, bitch, and left. Since he was with these boys who tried to break fly, I punched him dead in his eyes. Who you calling a
All
bitch?
my ladies, listen up. If that boy ain't giving up, make your lips and swing your hips and all you gotta say.
My name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, you need to let it go. Nah to the I to the no, no, no. I ain't bragging, cause I'm the one. Just ask me, you shall be done. Don't bother to compare, I've got it. I'm every woman, I'm every woman, I'm every woman, I'm every woman. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't live yourself in regret, just love yourself and your sin. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Girls, we run this mother. Hey. Girls, we run this mother. Hey. Girls, we run this mother. Hey. Girls, we run this mother. Who are we? What we run? The world. Who run this mother? Who are we? What we run? The world. Who run this mother? Who are we? What we run? The world. Who run this mother? Who are we? What we run? We run the world. We run the world. whatever you want, whatever you need, anything you want done, baby, I'll do it naturally. 'Cause I'm every woman. It's all in me. It's all in me. I believe that I was meant for greatness, that I will stand and fight for all my dreams. I never thought this journey would be painless, but I found out life is harder than it seems. Kwanzi ma kodwa ixesha liyaphilisa. I'm gonna fight back. I'm gonna rise up. Not gonna give up. I'm gonna stand up. Yeah, take back my power. Time my veins power. Time my heart power. Time my veins power. Yamana, Yamana, oh, Yamana, Yakagatiku. This girl is on fire. This girl is on fire. She's walking on fire. This girl is on fire. Baby, how you feeling? Woo, girl, need to kick up your shoes. Put the take a breathe. Time to focus on all the late nights, long nights that you've been through. I got a bottle of tequila I've been saving for you. Toss up and change your life. You can have it all, no sacrifice. I know we did you wrong, we can make it right. We're gonna let it all hang out tonight. 'Cause we don't love you anymore. So walk your finance out the door. And do your hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feel? Feeling good as hell. Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Hey, baby, when you get home. Listen, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Who you calling the bitch? U-N-I-T-Y. You gotta let her know. U-N-I-T-Y, that's a unity. Instinct leads me to another flow. Every time I hear a brother call a girl a bitch or a hoe, trying to make a sister feel low, you know all of that got to go. Now everybody knows there's exceptions to this rule. Now don't be getting mad when we play what's cool, but don't you be calling me out my name. I bring back to those who disrespect me like a day. That's why I'm talking. One day I was walking down the block, I had my cut up shorts on, 'cause it was crazy hot. I walked past the dudes when they passed me. One of them felt my booty, he was nasty. I turned around red, I thought he was catching the rap. Then the middle one said, yeah, me, bitch, and left. Since he was with these boys who tried to break fly up, I punched him dead in his eyes. Who you calling a bitch?
All my ladies, listen up. If that boy ain't giving up, lick your lips and swing your hips and all you gotta say.
My name is no, sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go. You need to let it go. You need to let it go. Nah to the I to the no, no, no. I ain't bragging, 'cause I'm the one. Just ask me, who shall be done. Nobody to compare. I got it. I'm every woman. I'm every woman. I'm every woman. I'm every woman. I'm we run the